11-4. And 11-4 can be kind of confusing because they give you direction, but they don't let you know at this point what they're looking for. If we come over and we look, they said we're just looking to see if you throw a report card exception. The report card exception. I can come in, I can look, valid report card midterm grade, valid report card final grade, valid report card. Well, let's come back. And they say they want us to create instances of a report card object. We're going to have to create a report card class and have different report card objects. And we have to have an argument exception. What do you think about that? Argument exception means I'm passing it something that's not what it's supposed to be. So I'm going to give you a report card class. Okay? And then from there, we're going to instantiate it. So here's our report card class, class report card. Scroll a little bit. Opening and closing braces. And here's our report card class. We've got in our constructor for report card, we receive a student, which is a string, a mid, which is midterm grade integer, and a final, which is an integer. So I've got that student, that's going to be their name, their midterm, and their final. And we've got an average. We've got a grade, which is an F, low valid 0, high valid 100, so it's got to be between 0 and 100. Cutoffs are 60, 70, 80, and 90, and that array is a parallel array with grades. And depending on where they are, it will determine which grade they get. Now, if mid is less than low valid, meaning it's a negative number, or mid is over high valid, over 100. So if it's less than 0 or over 100, throw an exception. I'm intentionally throwing an exception. What is that exception? I haven't said yet. I don't know. It's just an argument exception. I'm going to go ahead and throw it. You're giving me something that's not what I want it to be. If final is outside the bounds, throw an exception. So if you give me a bad grade, we're going to throw an exception. Simple as that. If you gave me a good grade, we're going to go ahead and calculate the average and go from there. Okay? So it's a functional class that works to come up with averages for each one, and it'll populate those arrays. Now, it goes through the two arrays that we've got. Let's come back up, and we have to now utilize this report card class in a way that potentially throws an exception. And the exceptions are the two argument exceptions. And all it is we'll go ahead and we're going to create some instances of report card, and we'll catch them however we want to catch them. So go ahead and we'll start out. I'm going to try to create an instance of report card called card1, and I'll pass it some values. If there's an error, an exception, it will catch it and pass it over, and it'll tell us what the exception is and say there was an exception for card1. I'll do the same thing for card2. Pass it some values. Do the same thing. So I'm doing the same try catch. Try this, and if there's an error, and we're catching it the same way. for each one. Same catch. The only difference is this indicates that it's the catch for card 1, the catch for card 2. So I know where I caught that exception. And the message that's going to come back is that it's an argument exception. Now, the argument exceptions are for negative, so we know that D is going to throw an exception. And we know that Edward, his final is outside the bounds. Okay? Everybody else will actually give me a break. Go ahead and run this thing. And we've got some warnings, and the warnings are traditional warnings. Card 1's assigned, but we never used it. Yeah, I know. There it is. It's there, but it's saying that we didn't actually use it. Okay. So, when I get down into the actual code, Adam's report card was created. There's a midterm and a final. Average and a grade is a B. Brown, report card created. Midterm, final, average, and grade. Cook, card 4 does not fall within the expected range. Card 5 does not fall within the expected range. So, instead of saying card 2 could have been brown, I could have returned some value that told us what it was, but card 2 was that report card or that object that we did. So which is telling us there's an exception there. And we handled or caught those exceptions. So we did try catch on everybody the same way. And that's something that we'll get used to. We'll try and catch the same way all the time. And depending on what we caught, it'll explain or have an output message to let us know what it caught, where it caught, and how it caught. And then we'll just proceed from there. Okay? So that's that one. Let's go check and make sure that we did do everything we needed to do. It says we're good. We threw the exception for report card. We tested it. So that's 11.4. We're doing try catch, and we're getting more comfortable with doing it and the different types of exceptions so far. We can throw an exception intentionally, and that's what we did. We threw an argument exception. The argument exception is value does not fall within the expected range. Okay. So that was our exception that we actually generated. So I'll see you in the next one, 11-5.